Police officers regularly have other jobs, sometimes to support their families, sometimes for something they love doing. Julian Pesina was one of those cops. He operated a tattoo parlor while off duty. He even took to tattooing customers himself. His shop, Notorious Ink, was about to become notorious for an entirely different reason. One night when closing, he was involved in one of the most brutal shootings this community had ever seen.
Officer Julian Pesina was ambushed outside his tattoo shop on Sunday, May 4th. But the question remains, was it possibly a gang hit?
As Pesina closed his shop one evening, he would come face to face with the barrel of a gun and certain death. As it turns out, this police officer was hiding some very dark secrets that will leave you shocked as he messes with the wrong cartel, the Mexiconomy, in the bloody history of the Texas Mexican Mafia.
Man with a badge, but underneath his uniform, a man who sources say may have had suspected ties to the Mexican Mafia. What is your response to the allegations?
They're only allegations and they're only speculation. And it's unfair, and it would be counter to the SAPD investigation to speculate further on any of that, because that's all that is. And should they be proven to be true, they're not necessarily reflective of everybody else in an organization.
May 4, 2014, Officer Julian Pesina is enjoying his day off in his usual spot, his own tattoo parlor, Notorious Ink. As he was locking up his shop, he received a text message as a car pulled up outside. Pesina went over to the car and chatted with the driver, totally unaware of the imminent danger he was in. Two men wearing ski masks approached Pesina from the side. One had a shotgun and the other had a pistol. They opened fire and slayed him where he stood with several rounds of bullets before escaping in the same car that pulled up outside his shop. It only took minutes for the police to turn up and cordon off the area. The investigation that followed opened a can of worms that shocked the local community as they learned police officer Julian Pesina was not as innocent as he might have appeared. In fact, Pesina was hiding many secrets, and one of those just costed him his life in a very public execution, and he was caught on an FBI surveillance camera.
The crime caught on the store's surveillance camera and an undercover surveillance camera set up by the FBI, which was investigating Pesina.
He had been shot by members of the Texas Mexican Mafia, and Pesina was already very familiar with the cartel, but for all the wrong reasons. The Texas Mexican Mafia is an organization that makes their money through the sale of illegal narcotics, extortion, and assault, among many other brutal crimes they have added to their rap sheet over the years. The cartel was originally formed in the 1950s from inside prison as a way of protecting themselves while incarcerated. Those original members of the cartel declared San Antonio, Texas as its base of operations and the cartel capital. As the years progressed, the Texas Mexican Mafia stretched its wings beyond the prison walls and into town and the surrounding areas. Their code of conduct was simple: crime and violence. They took their code extremely serious, and membership required a merecido, or worthy one, to kill in order to be accepted. A new member could only be accepted with a padrino, or sponsor, to vouch for them. Potential new members closely associated with the cartel include prospectos, or prospects, and non-members that had not yet risen to the level of a prospect. Associates who spent considerable time with the gang were known as coras, or hearts. One of their biggest incomes was through extortion. They would collect what they called a dime, which was a tax of 10% that they took from their narcotic dealers who weren't part of the cartel. This tax allowed the non-members to sell in the area the cartel controlled. They also dealt in weapon sales, and of course, the sale of illegal narcotics.
It is a blood in, blood out organization, so most members get in by killing somebody, and they know the only way to get out is to die. They know that going in.
Gang expert Anthony Rodriguez explains the problems with the rise of criminal empires just like this. They don't want to draw the attention of a law enforcement or the community. At the end of the day, they're still a criminal enterprise, and that's why they don't want a lot of attention. When I say they're big, they're spanning states, and now they're raising their kids in it, and that's why gang membership isn't going away. It has more power now, and it has become a family, and that makes it very dangerous and very big. Of course, with the cartel, there comes cartel tattoos. In this case, the tattooed gang member would get an M and or the number 13, and one local police officer just so happened to have that very tattoo.
Pesina gave two different stories on how he became a member of the gang and his tattoos associated with the gang, which he proudly displayed on his Facebook profile. Those tattoos began raising the suspicions of Pesina's fellow officers who took their concerns to their chief.
Julian Pesina was much more than just a cop. He also owned and operated a tattoo shop in Balcones Heights. He was relatively new and had worked his way from prison guard to police officer. But he didn't just earn his income from upholding the law and tattooing. He had a side job as well, and one his fellow officers would be horrified to learn.
Officer Julian Pesina claimed membership in a brutal prison gang and was even selling drugs to Mexican Mafia members before he was ambushed.
Pesina paid his dime to the gang on the narcotics he sold, but the gang themselves were completely unaware that Pesina was leading a double life as a cop, as well as being a member of the Texas Mexican Mafia.
This time it appears the gang was in the dark. Court papers say they didn't know Pesina was doing double duty, working as a police officer in Balcones Heights until they saw his Facebook page. Besides his day job, it was his personal photos that got our attention after Pesina's murder. Tattoos, our experts said, identified Pesina as a member of the Texas Mexican Mafia.
He had M, number 13. The M is significant of the Mexican Mafia.
Gang expert Anthony Rodriguez explains how gangs such as these integrate members into the community. What fascinates me about them is not only that they speak their own language, have their own culture, and their own identity. They live among us, and most people are not aware of it. You know, you go to the barbershop, and there they are, cutting your hair. I mean, it's just an interesting world that lives among us, and people aren't aware of it. But Julian Pesina was all too aware of just how many members there were in town, and it was only a matter of time before one of those members recognized him as a cop, or even a cop recognized him as a gang member.
Balcones Heights police officer Julian Pesina was a member of the Texas Mexican Mafia.
Officer Kenneth Ortiz was a hard-working cop who believed in law and order, and he had become very concerned about a fellow officer and the warning signs he was seeing. He was so concerned, in fact, that he went straight to a superior officer. He told Police Chief Henry Dominguez about the unsuitability of Pesina's gang tattoos, which he had never attempted to keep hidden. Allegedly, Ortiz was simply told that Pesina still had much to offer the police department. Ortiz also told his boss of more concerning interaction Pesina had with a female suspect. The suspect took one look at Pesina and is reported to have said, "Oh, you a soldier." This was a direct reference of him being an active gang member. Dominguez simply brushed off his concerns. Even when Ortiz asked the officer chosen to attend a gang conference, he was told that Pesina was the better suited officer to attend.
The new indictment says Pesina didn't just claim membership, he also sold drugs and paid the dime. That's the 10% street tax dealers must pay to the Texas Mexican Mafia.
Suspicion soon turned towards Dominguez and just how much he might have known about the ties Pesina had with the Texas Mexican Mafia. These concerns were so strong that the Balcones Heights Police Officers Association signed a letter of no confidence in their chief, a move that saw his suspension from the force. Eventually, Dominguez was allowed to return to work, with the allegation being treated as unfair and untrue. But Pesina was still not in the clear, as the FBI had their own concerns about his activities and would soon begin their own investigation and surveillance. They would have officers follow him and would place cameras to watch his every move. But the consequences of being caught by fellow law enforcement was nothing compared to what his fellow gang members would do when they found out one of their own was also carrying a police badge.
The government contends Pesina began selling drugs to Mexican Mafia members. The documents state Idrogo once took Pesina with him to collect the dime, which is a street tax to drug dealers. And one of those drug dealers identified Pesina as a cop.
6 years before his death, Pesina had stopped reporting to his gang and accumulated a $6,000 fine. The cartel would waiver this fine if he started selling narcotics. While in the middle of the deal, he was spotted by someone who knew what his day job was. Jerry Idrogo and Ruben Reyes, two of the gang's leaders, began looking into the claims, and Pesina would have two exact opposite sides of the law, keeping a close eye on all of his activities. When the Texas Mexican Mafia discovered the shocking truth to Pesina's double life, they planned to silence him forever.
Reyes told Idrogo to put a team together for the murder. He tapped Cardona, a gang prospect, and Santibanez, a member in bad standing who owed a favor, to be the gunmen. The three men studied Pesina's routine and even dug a hole in which to bury him before shooting him. On the night of the murder, the documents say Idrogo called Pesina to arrange picking up his weekly dime payment. Idrogo dropped off Cardona and Santibanez on the side of the building, and they ambushed Pesina, killing him with gunfire from a shotgun and a handgun.
It didn't take investigators long to identify the perpetrators, as unbeknownst to them, FBI surveillance had caught the fatal shooting on camera, and before long, the hunt was on to find those responsible.
Tonight, police have 3 suspects in custody, all in connection with the murder of Balcones Heights police officer Julian Pesina. 2 arrests made today, one not for the murder, but for allegedly helping one of those accused killers hide from officers.
After further investigation, 4 suspects were arrested in total. Jerry Idrigo drove the car that raced the shooters away from the scene. He was actually found in Toledo, Ohio, after he fled San Antonio shortly after the murder. Ruben Reyes was arrested as the man who ordered the hit and would face his day in court. Jesse Santibanez and Alfredo Cardona were the 2 who ambushed Pesina and had the chilling task of digging his grave. They studied his movements to know exactly when the best time to carry out the Mafia hit would be. They both escaped to Cardona's girlfriend's place, where they wiped off the guns they used and cleaned themselves up.
Today, Santibanez' girlfriend, 24-year-old Priscilla Berlanga, was charged with hindering the arrest of Santibanez.
But they were soon apprehended, and these stone-cold killers would face a judge and jury to pay for their crimes.
Exactly 1 year and 1 month after Julian Pesina was ambushed in a car, a federal indictment was handed down against one of the accused killers.
It took 3 years together for this case to make it to court, but when it did, it shocked the whole community and caused an outrage against the frequent gang violence.
Court documents, part of the federal government's case against Alfredo Cardona and Jesse Santibanez, revealed Julian Pesina's May 2014 execution was planned well in advance. The documents state Pesina claimed to be a Texas Mexican Mafia member who had not reported to the gang in 6 years. For that, he was fined $6,000. Pesina then allegedly reported to the Northside Texas Mexican Mafia leadership, including Gang Sergeant Jerry Idrogo and Lieutenant Ruben Reyes.
Alfred Cardona, Jerry Idrogo, and Jesse Santibanez appearing together in federal court this afternoon for a status hearing.
Idrogo agreed to testify against Cardona and Santibanez. He also admitted on the stand to murdering Billy Padilla, another Texas Mexican Mafia member. That took place in 2013 after Padilla failed to turn over drug money. During the trial, it was also revealed that Reyes killed Texas Mexican Mafia member Ulises Farias right in front of his family in October 2013 in a brutal shooting. He also shot fellow members Mark Banal, Carlos Chapa, and Johnny Solis in January 2014. The FBI later revealed that they were only days away from arresting Pesina, but in this case, the Mafia got to him first. Both Cardona and Santibanez pleaded innocence throughout the trial, but their own gang members would testify differently. Drogo told the court that Jay shot him with a shotgun first, and Freddie Lowe shot him with a 9mm afterwards. He confirmed he, Santibanez, and Cardona went to Cardona's girlfriends and tried to clean up. Drogo testified he broke his own cell phone before throwing it away and telling Reyes the job was complete. Reyes took the guns they used with the intention of destroying them, and he ordered the 2 men not to be seen together until things had cooled down. Santibanez protested his innocence throughout the trial, even saying, "I am innocent of these charges. The government has punished me for exercising my right to fair trial. I'm being punished for this and other murders." He even claimed there was no physical evidence, no DNA, just government witnesses. Santibanez said as he pleaded with the judge to show him mercy. Cardona did not speak in court, but also claimed innocence till the end. But to avoid the maximum punishment, Cardona and Santibanez made the ultimate sacrifice.
Those new details are part of the government's plea deals offered to Cardona and Santibanez. They're both being offered 30-year sentences with 5 years of supervised release in exchange for guilty pleas. Jerry Drogo pled guilty to his role in the murder last year and is waiting to learn what his sentence will be. Meanwhile, Ruben Reyes pled guilty to several murders he committed for the gang, including Pesina's. A federal judge handed him 5 life sentences in December.
Hidrogo would receive a sentence of 20 years in a federal prison. Cardona and Santibanez would both get life, but the harshest sentence was saved for the man who ordered the hit, Reyes, who would face 5 life sentences, meaning he would never see freedom. Because this was the murder of a police officer, the mandatory sentences are life without parole, something the defense team opposed. Tom McHugh, who represented Santibanez, made a bold statement when he said, "My words and your sentencing discretion both are powerless, useless, futile. The defendant confronts a mandatory sentence. You and I are dinosaurs. We are obsolete. Nothing we can say or do will make a difference. Today, it's the government who determines the defendant's sentence." In just a few seconds, these men not only killed one of their own, they also became cop killers. And whether this cop was corrupt or not, we can all rest easier knowing these 4 monsters are safely locked up behind bars. Cases like these are unusual. Cops don't normally lead such deadly double lives. The victim was only days from arrest and possible prison life, but instead his involvement with the Texas Mexican Mafia ultimately costed him his own life. Let me know what you think of this case in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the worst, most deadly crime cartels.